So in computer, like you have two kinds of what is it called, standard input output. Like we have something called standard output input, and you have the standard output. So any guess on what would be the standard input and the standard output?
We can give the input to the file using some plugins, TCP plugins, or any different kind of inputs we can provide.
No need to go in that level. So the
Uh-huh.
word it refers here is a standard input output. So
Mm-hmm.
in by default, all the instruction we give to computers through keyboard. Do you agree with me or not?
Yes, that's right.
So that is the standard input here. And how do you
Mm-hmm.
get to see the output from the computer?
So when we execute, we can see the output uh,
By
uh,
yeah,
in the.
I'm looking for a device name.
Okay. Um, Not sure.
It is a monitor, nothing much.
Oh, monitor. Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Okay.
So all the instructions are given through keyboard and obtained through the
Mm-hmm.
monitor,
Yeah.
because I just want to introduce you to this jargon, because anywhere when you do any searches or when you do a online read, they use this verbiage a lot. Use a standard output
Mm-hmm.
and standard input and so on and so forth. That is the reason I just want you to get started with it. Now, the objective of the Hello World program is to go and print something on the standard output. Do you agree with me? Because if I
Mm-hmm.
have to see something, I have to see only on monitor screen, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to perform that, we choose a thing called print, which is equivalent of putting things in the standard output. And let's say hello world.
Mm-hmm.
And so the print statement is a function indeed. All the functions, most of the programming language will have the square bracket, the function bracket. So again, there are like different type of bracket, but this type of bracket is very specifically for the functions, in which in the double quotes you try to do the hello world. Okay, in the hello world you try to execute, you try to enter it, and let's execute it. To run that, I'm just right clicking on it and click on the run hello world.
Mm-hmm.
Once you do that, see my output where I'm viewing the screen is on the monitor, not anywhere else. Yes,
Yeah.
there can be different output as well. You can have a different output like a file agreed upon. You can also have to printer. That is also one of the standard output. But the very basic, when people refer to the input output, this always refer to the keyboard and the monitor. Clear?
Mm-hmm.
So I hope now you know how to execute a simple print statement. Now, in this, let's see what are the different bracket are available, bracket or notation. So you have something called square bracket, you have something called curly braces, and you have the function bracket. So whenever I use some work with function, I always refer this as the function bracket. So this is also a thing to be noted.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also a kind of a bracket which we use in high school generally, just to encapsulate the order preference, but we will not be using it majority. We will leave this part. And this bracket is again a one kind of a square bracket which people call as a square bracket. Here in Python we use this is for a different data type which we will see a little later, but we got the idea right. So how to go and print the hello world, correct?
Yes.
So any question till this point?
No.
All right. So this is one sort of a way I open a editor and I execute, write the few command and I execute. This is one style. There is one
Mm-hmm.
more style of working with Python which many people prefer it, which is the terminal mode. What I'm referring to the terminal mode is that I'm opening my system terminal, in which if I go and type Python 3.8, I believe 3.9 is a recent version. And if I type print hello world. This will also work.
Okay.
So in
So,
order to, yeah,
do we have to install to get this terminal?
so okay, good question. So by default, if you have installed the Python exe,
Mm-hmm.
by if you are using a Windows user, by the command prompt by default, if you type Python 3.8, it will be
Yeah.
coming default. That is
Okay.
one
Yeah.
option. Or else, if you want to use in the within the confined environment, let's say I don't want to go outside the PyCharm, perfectly fine. If you go and
Mm-hmm.
see, look for the word called Python console. Do you see here?
Mm-hmm.
If you click on the Python console, like the same way you can execute and test it out. You can also try print hello world. This is also possible.
Okay.
So in order to execute a program, we can open the IDE traditionally, execute in the main working area. This is the main working area. If
Mm-hmm.
I keep referring it, this is one way. I can open the terminal. I can perform the execution. Or else, if I'm bit of I just want to make it everything at a unified place, I can choose Python console to get it done. Because like if they want to test out few logic or few implementation, it's very cumbersome for me to right click and click on the run world, right? I write the instruction, if I enter, I get the output directly. That is the whole expectation here. If that is the case, my job is pretty straightforward, right? If I just have to test some small logic and I have to verify the correctness. So if I'm sticking to it, these command line executions are very handy.
Mm-hmm.
Clear?
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, let's try to learn different data types and let's try to see how we can print different data types. That is the next objective. Data types, what I'm referring to is that how computers store different, what is it called, formats of data. That is the whole idea here. So, do you remember, may I know, like, what is your, in plus one, plus two, have you studied computer science, Smita, by chance, or you are bio student?
No.
Yeah, in 8085, 8086, when you have
Mm-hmm.
to punch in some instruction, you what you do, you type some operand and you type the value accordingly. So people try to use something called variable accumulator. Through the accumulator, they
Mm-hmm.
perform some values to it, correct? They usually assign to 80, then the accumulator would be here, and they do the choose the operand and they execute the instruction. So I think I've just touched base on the high level part just to derive some intuition on different data type. So in computer, the data types are broadly classified into following things. Now I'm writing a multi-line comment. Okay. So before we go there, like you can write comment in two style. You can write a single line comment. That's why you see the ash symbol here, right? Ash symbol, or people call it a pound symbol altogether. This is one way of writing comment. And if your comments are going to multiple line, then people choose three triple quotes, single quotes, and which automatically gets generated in this fashion. Now, broadly in computer, even if you go to the high school, we know what might be integer. I'm speaking very in a mathematical thing like high school maths. Integer, you might have heard about. You might heard about the float,
Mm-hmm.
or not even float. Let's keep the high school math, the decimal point, and you have
Yeah.
something called real number.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one more thing which is not specific to computer, but something called strings, which I
Mm-hmm.
hope you will be able to get. So you
Yes.
have these three fundamental attribute in high school maths. If you have to
Mm-hmm.
understand the equivalent of it, so the integer always corresponds to int, and if you have a decimal point, you have something called float. And for real number, we don't have to really look for it now. And for string, they call this the str, which is the string, the short form of it. If you see here, you will see the short form of all the abbreviations or the syntax being used. So we have the integer, float, and string being there. Now let's try to create some variables for it. So in Python, unlike other programming language like C, C++, Java, it is a kind of a loosely type, or what I say, yeah, no data type is required. So if you have, by chance, if you've seen any C program, you might have seen int a equal to 10. I'll show you some examples from internet. Do you see this here? A simple program. Leave about the other part. Like the way they define int number, number two, and sum. They are before they start using the number, they are trying to define what is the data type of the variable. But here in Python, it is not mandate for us to provide the data type. The data type will be auto import from the right hand side. Your interpreters or your compilers are very smart enough to figure out what is the type which is mentioned on the right hand side. That has the both positive and the negative effect on the user behavior. But let's speak about the positive effect. So you don't have to really specify what is there on the right hand side. For example, if I go and type name equal to Shushmita, I hope I type your name correctly. And
Yeah, it's
let's say
correct.
uh, let's say I type age equal to 25, and let's think of let's say amount. I'll say a bank balance. I would say, let's say 1,000. I have some number like 58. I just want to have some decimal point. So this belongs to the type of string, and this belongs to type of int, and this belongs to type of float. So we have three data types being mentioned by us. How do you verify whether computer has really thought whether name is of type string and age is equal to 25 as an integer? We can verify pretty easily. So we can use a print statement back again, and we use the word called type. Type is to get what is the data type of the given variable. I'm choosing name. So if I execute this instruction, now it's, you see it says class of type str, which means it belongs to the string. Do you see that?
Yes.
If I change to integer, if I execute it, I see a type of class type. How is it type? Oh, sorry, I should type age. My
Age.
bad. Mm. So you see type of int. If I choose amount, it will be either double or float. Let's see what it comes. Yeah, it comes on the float. So you get the idea, right? Now, whatever I mentioned to you, compilers are smart enough to understand what is there on the right hand side. So that makes our life easy. So that is why people say, unlike other programming language, the learning curve would be like much faster in Python, because all these small things are taken care and your life becomes much easier. And one of the biggest advantage what most of the programming language these days offer is that you can avoid the semicolon. If you take the example of a C program, for each and
Mhm.
every statement, I may have to provide the semicolon. Only then my instruction will be treated, okay, it's got completed. But if you compare the Python code, nowhere from the very beginning to this point, I would have given a semicolon. I am assuming that each line has each instruction. That is also improving my writing capability, because when I used to work on C and C++, if I leave over the semicolon anywhere, I will hit in the compilation bug, which I have to really go and look like where is it thing got really got messed up. I have to go and figure out where is the real problem. But here in Python, majority 99% of the population, they type one instruction per line. What I'm referring the instruction is that, like the same way of 8085, If I have to do a variable assignment, that will be one instruction. If I do some operation, that will be of a different instruction. So each line has only one instruction. That is the idea here. Clear?
Mhm.
Now let's resume back to the simple hello world. Whatever I spoke about the type and all, it's not required at this moment. But just to set the context of how Python makes our life easier, I have to draw a few stories from the other programming language. Now let's see how
Mhm.
to print the name. To print the name, print name, simple. To print the age, age, and print amount. If I execute it, I'll be able to see Sushmita age equal 25, and this is the amount in your bank account in dollars. So we are
Mhm.
able to perform all these instructions. Now you might be wondering, like, is it making any sense of learning a print statement? Yes, print statement also makes a very significant work when it comes to any sort of a billing activity. You might have seen some invoice, right? During
Mhm.
any invoice or something, you might have seen lot of instruction getting printed. You would see the client name, the city, state, invoice number, and other detail. These are like you have your data at the back end, and if you want to print something, they're able to get the content to the screen back again. This is how the invoice get printed, and this is how you get to see this. You get the idea, right? So the print
Mhm.
statement, even the print statement has some significant values when you have to process it and show to the user. Or by chance, if you have seen any IRCTC booking station, not the traditional IRCTC platform, there used to be in a time like I used to go to the IRCTC station directly. Still, if you look into the how operators work, they will be working on some black screen. I'm not sure whether you would have get a chance to see that. They still
Mhm.
be working on a black screen, which is a mainframe computer altogether, in which they will be keep punching some values, and so they will not have any graphical user interface. Instead, they will have a simple console mode where they will be punching all the details about the passenger and other information, after which they will generate the ticket and other information. That is how people tend to work even today in the railways. So
Mhm.
working in command line or without a graphical user interface, the print statement would make your life much easier. Because like if you think like 20 years back, people did not have luxury of having a fancy graphical user interface. They were still working on a command line. So to work with a command line interface, a print statement was very handy in order to show the what is the thing they're expecting from the user. All these aspects, the print statement was pretty handy. Clear?
Mhm. Okay, so just they will type the name and then they will see like how much amount is it and then print the ticket, right?
Exactly.
Mhm. Okay. So in order to learn Python, do we need to have any other programming knowledge or
No,
is
it's
okay?
not required. The reason I just wanted to draw some inspiration is that to connect dots very easily.
Mhm. Okay,
If I
got
randomly start with something called name, this is what a string, that will not
it.
make any sense, at least for my opinion. As you are being
Okay.
from a electronic background, you are like more, you will understand things even better, because without electronics, computers have no sense.
Mhm.
Because I would say in a very simple context, you might have heard about the flip flops and registers, right?
Mhm.
So if you
Mhm.
understand how flip flops and registers works, only then internally the high level language, whatever we write, it's all like human can understand, correct? But at the end
Yes.
of the day, computer can understand only zeros and one. If computers can understand only some zeros and one, how does the binary data get executed? You have to have things in the electronic things like the flip flops and registers and all the things at the back end, which computer really understand at the back. Like it's all like the
Mhm.
whether the what is it called, the signal, I forgot the good name for it, whether the
Mhm.
pulses are there or not. If the signal is
Mhm.
high, you have the value 1. If the signal is low,
Mhm.
which value is
Mhm.
0. Simple. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
it's all big boils down to the computer hardware, But what we are really trying to do with Python, C, or any language is that we tend to write instruction at a high level. Indeed, the computer or the compiler tries to transfer all these instructions to zeros and one so that computer can understand and take things forward. That is all we are trying to do. The
Mhm.
people who wrote the compilers, the Python compilers or C compiler, they may have to speak with the assembly language or the zeros and one to make their work done, which they have taken care already. Now our idea is to just go and focus on the high level part. That is the good part. Still, people who actively develop the programming language, let's say Python or Scala or C or C++, they tend to work in a very low level setting, to low level how devices can understand. If I pass on an instruction, how that instruction is being executed behind the scene in computer or behind the hardware, everything, all the heavy lifting works are taken care by the compiler developers. What we are trying to do, we are trying to use their platform, which is their programming language, to make our life simple and easy. Clear?
Mhm. Yeah.
Because like 20 years back there was a no branch something called as a computer, at least on the
Mhm.
majority. It was in part
Mhm.
and parcel of the electrical or electronics department very specifically, because without
Mhm.
electronics you can't build computer. That's for sure.
Yeah. Mm.
So that now as the trend got changed, people are having a new what is it called, a new degree. Like the same way the recent trend AIML is becoming a hot topic. Now
Mm.
they are introducing
Mm.
AIML as a new degree, but which is may will
Mm.
not make any sense altogether. But this is the idea. You get the idea, right? So that's how
Yes.
the things or the trend keeps changing every now and then. What is the story behind name and everything? Back to it.
Mhm.
Now, now let's design a simple project. Whatever things we learned at this moment, we will learn one more syntax for on the same thing, how to accept the input from the user. After which, we will design a simple reservation system in which we'll try to book the ticket and make things happen. So I'm just gonna choose a create a Python file and say user input. Now, till this moment, I'm hard coding everything. Let's say name, age, or amount. I've hard coded because the word I use the word called hard coded, which means I've pasted everything in the computer directly. If I have to make a change in this code, I have to open my editor, open the specific piece of code, and then make a change, which is why people call it the hard coded, which is again a bad design pattern people usually tend to say. So now and then I'll be speaking about the good practices as well as few jargons programmers will
Mhm.
use, so that
Mhm.
in future if you are working with any people, these
Mhm.
jargons will not be sounding very new to you. Okay, that is the reason I'm just taking up this part. If
Okay.
Python class is taken for the school kid, it will be of a entirely of a different style. But as you are a experienced professional, I'm using few words which you will be
Mhm.
able to use in your real time. That is the reason I'm just putting few things here. Okay.
Okay.
Now
Yeah.
I have hard coded everything, which I cannot keep changing it. That's not very
Mhm.
interesting for me, right? Computer, when I design a program, it has to
Mm.
keep doing some activity every now and then. That's what makes
Mm.
my life very easier. So
Mhm.
to accept the input from user from this standard input, your standard input is a keyboard, correct? How do we get
Mhm.
that? Pretty straightforward. You just have to type the input keyword, and I
Mhm.
say enter the name,
Mhm.
and I assign to a variable called name. The same way, name equal to input and
Mhm.
age equal to input, and type enter the age. So I've typed in three things. Now let's go and execute. Now let's go and type print statement for all these. Print name,
Mhm.
print age, and print balance. This is one style. There is one more easy style as well to print. Print
Mhm.
name, comma, age, comma, balance. This is also possible. If you do it
Mhm.
in a different line, you will create the options in every new line. But if I do a print all this thing in the same line, everything gets printed sequentially next to next. We will see how
Mhm.
it comes. I just want to execute. Right click and run the user input. Now it is prompting me. Do you see here? Now it's prompting me to
Mhm.
enter the name. So I just type Shushmita and I
Mhm.
type age equal to 25 and I let's say a bank balance of, I just type some number.
Mhm.
See, I
Mhm.
got the word Sushmita here, 25
Yeah.
and 2545, and all the things are executed in sequential line. All these three
Mhm.
statements. Now you
Mhm.
got the idea, right? Where are we heading to and what is happening? Now I can reuse this program every time when I like to get the value, because now I can change this to the other way. I can type hurry. I just say
Mhm.
26 and I say balance equal to some random number. You
Mhm.
see, I'm making things more dynamic here.
Mhm.
You get the idea, right? Now
Yeah.
I'm not hard coding anything. Instead, I'm getting the input from the user. Depending upon the scenario, I'm making a best use of it. Now
Mhm.
you might be thinking where this can be put in real world. In a reservation system, yeah, let's say you are running a bus and the bus seat capacity is 30 people. For every journey you make, the first seat will be occupied by a different person. Right? Today there will be a person X, tomorrow there will be a person B, Y and Z, so on and so forth. The names keep changing. If I cannot go on a hard code saying that there will be user only called as Hari will be taking my bus, which is not gonna
Mhm.
happen. In that
Mhm.
scenario, we should know how to accept the input from the user so that I can change the values accordingly. You got the big picture, right?
Mhm.
So in today's class, we spoke about how to accept the input from the user using the input statement, and we learned about different data types, which is we call string, integer,
Mhm.
and float. We spoke about the data types, and we also spoke about the simple variable assignment. Let's say name
Mhm.
equal to Sushmita or name equal to
Mhm.
age equal to 25. We also learned about simple variable assignment. After which, we also understood how we can go and print a statement. Where and all printing is very handy. To print a value,
Mhm.
you can directly print it or you can print with the help of the variable as well. The type of print statement we do here is a variable printing, because I am not giving the value directly here. If you see the
Mhm.
hello world program, I have just given the value directly here. But here
Mhm.
in this code, I am printing the variable name directly, name, age,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
balance. You got the idea, right?
Mhm. Yes. And when we are printing, no, we just pass the name, no. So do we need to give inverted columns in the top, in before name and after name?
A very good observation and a very good question. Now let's come
Yeah.
to the point why we are giving double quotes here, but why are we
Mhm.
not giving double quotes? That's a very fantastic
Yeah.
question. So let me just
Mhm.
open up a new code,
Mhm.
use a word called printing. Let's collect
Mhm.
all the samples, whatever we did. So we know that this statement gets is working perfectly. Now
Mhm.
assume that I want to do something else. Let's say print address.
Mhm.
If I click on print address, nowhere before I have just mentioned about what is the address is all about. If I directly use the word the variable address, what do you see some error being highlighted? It
Mm-hmm.
basically says that unresolved reference, which means there's no reference about the address is mentioned anywhere before. Your computer is not able to understand the fact what is meant by address here. Clear?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Whatever
So
is
if the way,
referenced, we
yeah,
have to give like that. Okay.
yeah, if I go and type address here, let's say I
Mm-hmm.
say Bay Area, something like that,
Mm-hmm.
then it will work. If I go ahead and print it, it will say Bay Area. But if there's no reference of the word address, then I'm screwed because there is no
Mm-hmm.
reference of the word address. Now
Mm-hmm.
let's see one more similar scenario. Let's say I type print USA. I
Mm-hmm.
know USA is a type of string, but still it's not able to come because it is whenever you try to typing without any double quote, your compiler will always assume that it belongs to a variable.
Mm-hmm.
If the variable is being defined anywhere before, then it can understand. If not, if you are like to provide the just want to print the USA directly, you have to provide within the double quotes.
Mm-hmm.
You get the idea, right?
Can
So if
we?
you want,
Yes, I got it. So can we use the single quotes also instead of double quotes?
yes, perfectly, it will work perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
It is a developer preference. People use double quotes
Okay.
often, single quotes it's all allowed. In
Mm-hmm.
certain cases, you will mix match both. For
Okay.
example, I'll give you one scenario. Let's say I like India. Let's say Indians. This. Let's say you might have seen this passage in your grammars very often, right? Newspaper and everything.
Mm-hmm.
See, I have
Mm-hmm.
used a single quotes. Now, in this code, let's say I assign to on the same case, if I use a print statement, it will work. In this example, if I
Okay.
use a single quote, your compiler will start to misbehave because your computer will try to understand, okay, I've seen the beginning, okay, this is the end. But this guy is lying without being any head or tail. You see the problem here, right? So in this
Mm-hmm.
scenario, people try to use a mix match scenario. Now here I say that this is where my double quotes begin and ends. All the
Mm-hmm.
things present in it is taken care internally. If you try to print
Mm-hmm.
it, it will print like India place. You get the
Mm-hmm.
idea, right? So this is where people tend to
Yeah.
mix both these two ideas.
Suppose like if we have in between that sentence, double quote somewhere is there. So then we need to
Then,
have some escape
yeah,
code.
exactly. You came to the point. If there is any sort
Yeah.
of this character comes in, you have to use a
Mm-hmm.
backward slash, which you try
Mm-hmm.
to inform a compiler saying that I'm trying to escaping it. If you run it, you get the idea. Means you
Okay.
get the desired output. So if you see any
Okay.
special character, you have to, it's your responsibility or the programmer responsibilities to escape because computer will not understand things contextually. It has to only if it
Mm-hmm.
can take things, it can understand it. You get the idea, right? Because
Yes.
it's all
Yes.
driven by the user, right? So contextually,
Mm-hmm.
we may have to mention or explicitly say as it is
Mm-hmm.
because all the things, the instructions we say to computer should be very explicit. If we are not explicit about it, then obviously computer is going to get confused because computers are not so smart. That fact we have to keep understanding it. So whatever you like to have, we have to say things very explicitly. If not, computer will not understand things very clearly. Got it?
Yeah.
Any question till this point?
No, I'm good.
Okay. On the same hand, if I type print 25, this will work
Mm-hmm.
because anything which sounds like an integer or a string, that is where either we have to give us a double quote or we may have to have a variable. But for other data types like print 25, this will work out of the box. Or let's say print 3.14, this will also work. So the exception rule, we spoke about the double quotes and the variable, it's only applicable for the string data type, or the I would say a
Mhm.
more of alphanumeric, both which contains both the letters as well as
Mhm.
the, or is a good name, yeah, the letters and the numbers. Even in this example, if I introduce a word called pi, this will
Mhm.
get confused now. See, it is
Mhm.
getting confused now. Only if it's a numeric value, specifically integer and float, this statement will work. Now you got the big
Mhm.
picture, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now we spoke about all these good part, and now let's look on a little bit of theory why Python is very famous in the computer world. Reason why Python is very famous in recent time is that it's very easy to learn, point number one, and the whole of Python can be completed within a week, the whole concept. And the good part is that you almost have library for everything. If you
Mhm.
go to the pip installer, there's a something called Python package manager. If you see a
Mhm.
list of packages, you try to see here, all the packages you can understand in the you can understand. Let's say if you want to work with Excel, yes, there is a package available already. You see how many packages are available already. Can
Mhm.
you name some
Mhm.
format like which you like to understand or which you want to work? Any sort of things you like to take it up? We will search in the part just to see
Mhm.
anything.
Okay.
You said you
Mm.
work with Ansible, right?
Yes.
See,
Spelling.
if you want to work with any Ansible kind of system, let's see what kind of library they provide on the Ansible.
Mhm.
Mhm. I don't think this is a good library. This
Sensible spelling mistake, I think. ANS, right?
oh,
Yeah.
SIBLE. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I think there's a library already. I'll just go to the home page to
Mhm.
see what is there. Okay, it's taking directly to this page. I need to go to the GitHub page. So I just want to see the get started. We are
Mhm.
getting started, in which they will speak about how to install it. And after which they will
Mhm.
be saying how to interact. And let's take a simple example. Let's take about the control mode.
Mhm.
Thinking for some example which we can see directly. Intro to
Mhm.
playbooks. So this is how your Ansible looks like, right? If with all the configuration and
Mhm.
everything. So if you
Mhm.
write your code accordingly, they say it can be generated automatically. Let's say if you want to accept some input from the user in real time. Let's
Mhm.
say you guys have to deploy in the Azure environment, and let's say the
Mhm.
DevOps engineer or the infra team gives you the what is the URL of the machine. You cannot
Mhm.
go and open modify the Ansible file explicitly by yourself. Instead, assume there's a Python program and which accepts the URL of the application, URL of the application IP address. See,
Mhm.
like whatever things we did now, instead of hard coding, now we are expecting the
Mhm.
user the input from the user. It
Okay.
makes your life much easier, right? You get the idea, right?
Mhm. Yes.
They have the example. Now, my favorite is here. Let's take the, okay, MongoDB, and let's see the YML. They are defining all the roles and what is the task to be
Mhm.
taken and what is the configuration. So you get the idea, right? So where the user input
Mhm.
is actually coming. So any topic you take, the applications are available by default. Even if you go and search for some framework, let's say you want to work with any web framework is also by default is there in the Python language. So
Mhm.
almost like you see a framework, topic, developer status, license, all the things are available by default. If you're working on any specific like on the NLP, there is also library, machine learning,
Mhm.
everything. The libraries are pre-baked already for you. See,
Mm-hmm.
this is ready-made for AI. If you go and search any topic you search, it's all available by default.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the reason why platform or programming language Python become so famous among all the people, because for a scientist or any research person, working with any complex language is gonna be a very cumbersome, because assume that you are a scientist and you know things very theoretically, and you are a kind of a theorist altogether who understand the
Mm-hmm.
mathematical aspect of it. If I ask you to go and speak to computer, if I start learning a very complex language, it is gonna take a lot of time for me. Do you agree with me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I have to learn the syntax, I have to
Mm-hmm.
learn the grammar, and which makes my learning time very harder. Instead, as I mentioned, the learning time is very small, as well as you have a very rich community support. All these people have contributed back to the library, so you just have to use the library and get the job done. That makes your
Mm-hmm.
life very much pretty easy. You get the idea, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is the whole benefit or the crux, why people use Python and why it's becoming popular day by day.
Mm.
Got the idea, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's pause it for a while today. Maybe you can practice
Mm.
and come back whatever things we discuss. What I'll do is I
Mm.
will send you the code.
Thank you. You too. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.